Let me share something most individuals avoid facing. Happiness is a practice. It's not a chance. It's not fortune. It's not connected to your finances, the climate, or how others behave toward you. Happiness is a decision, a struggle you wage every single day, particularly when circumstances turn against you, particularly when you're caught in turmoil. The universe won't deliver contentment on a golden tray. You must rise and claim it. You must direct your consciousness to embrace power, not frailty. And that requires effort. Every morning when your feet touch the floor, you encounter a choice. Will you govern your mindset or allow your situation to govern it for you? That question shapes everything. When circumstances are difficult, the complacent consciousness seeks sympathy. The formidable consciousness seeks meaning. You cannot permit suffering to establish your existence. Suffering is a messenger, not a verdict. The instant you permit external turbulence to determine your internal reality, you surrender your authority. And when you surrender your authority, you surrender your tranquility. You believe power is constructed in ease. Wrong. Power is shaped in the flames of hardship. Train your consciousness when you're exhausted. Center your essence when you're wounded. Express warmth when it feels awkward. That expression isn't artificial, it's ammunition. Drive yourself to express warmth. Not because circumstances are simple, but because you're more formidable than what you're experiencing. If you postpone life improving before you choose to be content, you'll be postponing indefinitely. Stop postponing. Start transforming. There will be moments when you feel shattered, moments you desire to vanish, moments where contentment feels like an alien tongue. But understand, those are the precise moments that establish you. That's when you either reach deeper or surrender. Do you desire tranquility? Construct it piece by piece in the shadows. Do you desire contentment? Generate it when reality says you shouldn't possess it. That's authority. That's endurance. That's what divides the ordinary from the relentless. You don't require authorization to be content. You don't require perfection in all things. What you require is principles. Elevated mental principles, elevated emotional principles. Regardless of what arrives, you ascend. Not because circumstances are equitable, but because you've conditioned your consciousness to ascend regardless. That's what champions do. That's what pioneers do. That's what you were designed to do. The instant you permit another person's behaviors to establish your contentment, you surrender the controls to your essence. Reclaim them. You govern what exists in your consciousness. You govern what flows through your core. Stop nourishing your suffering. Start nourishing your ambition. Stop rehearsing the narrative of what wounded you. Start composing the narrative of how you conquered it. Communicate like someone with authority. Contemplate like someone with intention. Moving like someone who understands contentment is an exercise of determination, not fantasy. Every morning declare this: today I select power. Today I select contentment. Today I ascend regardless of circumstances. Declare it until your essence obeys it. Declare it until your mindset is indestructible. There's no opportunity to be fragile. The universe is burdensome. But you are more substantial. You are shaped in the flames for this precise instant. It's your responsibility to remind yourself daily. Circumstances don't become simpler. You become more formidable. Joy isn't a reward. It's a creation of your consciousness produced by dedication, practice, and ambition. If you execute it every day, particularly when it's most difficult, particularly when nobody's celebrating, particularly when you're wounded, you'll awaken one morning and discover contentment is not something you pursued. It's something you embodied.
Before we continue, I want to mention that this Napoleon Hill message is brought to you by this channel, Napoleon Hill Blueprints. If you're finding value here, we'd greatly appreciate it if you'd take a moment to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're notified when we upload tomorrow's new message.
Happiness is not discovered, it is constructed. It is not a prize you encounter while drifting aimlessly through existence. It is not a mystical feeling that materializes when circumstances are flawless, when the weather is perfect, and individuals applaud you. It is not delivered by others nor awarded by destiny. Happiness is created brick by brick, stride by stride, reflection by reflection. It is the outcome of internal architecture, not external change. The instant you pause to feel positive before you behave correctly, you've already failed, because happiness is not the compensation for behavior, it is the consequence of daily practice. It is secured in quietness, in conflict, in isolation. And that's what most individuals refuse to acknowledge. Individuals pause for improved circumstances, but the most powerful minds manufacture improved circumstances. While the typical person examines situations, the extraordinary person molds his reaction. You don't command what occurs around you, but you absolutely command how you process it. And that processing is the bedrock of your emotional existence. You desire to experience tranquility, then contemplate tranquility. You desire to experience vitality, then behave with intention. Nobody is going to experience it for you. Nobody is going to transport your consciousness on their shoulders. You either construct yourself or destroy yourself. There is no neutral territory. Every single morning you awaken, existence presents you a selection. Remain where you are or ascend, surrender or advance. Pause for happiness or manufacture it with determination and conviction. The reality is happiness demands dedication. Not once, not sometimes, every single day, you must battle for happiness. You must condition for tranquility. Because when reality pushes you downward, your automatic response will either demolish you or propel you. And that automatic response is constructed by continuous concentration. You either condition your mind to advance through, or you condition your mind to collapse. When existence becomes difficult, and it will, your patterns will communicate louder than your inspiration. And your patterns are molded by what you rehearse, not what you desire for. Too many individuals pause to feel positive before they perform positively. That's weakness masquerading as reasoning. You don't pause to be motivated. You advance with practice, and motivation pursues you. Happiness is not something you pursue. It is something you produce. It originates from within, not from outside. If you pause for someone else to transform so you can experience liberation, you've surrendered your authority. You have one opportunity on this day. And regardless of what occurred yesterday, regardless of who wounded you, who deceived you, who disregarded you, it's your mind, your disposition, your existence. You desire happiness, construct it. When you're exhausted, when you're aggravated, when you don't witness outcomes, that's the examination. That's the instant your future is being sculpted. When you desire to withdraw, but you appear regardless. When you experience emptiness internally, but you declare power into your essence regardless. That's not artificial. That's bravery. That's power. That's the authentic you appearing. The individuals who triumph in existence don't triumph because they possess it simply. They triumph because they are determined every day to push forward. They determined every day to synchronize their feelings with their purpose, not their anguish. You don't get to withdraw from this. If you desire happiness, then require it from yourself. Establish the atmosphere. Establish the benchmark. Behave with bravery. Express warmth with deliberateness. Contemplate with precision. And don't pause for individuals to comprehend it. This is not about being comprehended. This is about becoming immovable. Difficult periods are the training facility for the essence. You either elevate or you crumble. You either expand through suffering or diminish from it. And in that suffering is where the foundations of genuine happiness are cultivated. The type of happiness that can't be seized by disillusionment. The type of happiness that isn't disrupted by defeat. The type of happiness that belongs to you because you secured it. You appeared when you possessed every rationalization not to. You remained elevated when existence attempted to make you insignificant. You maintained your vision precisely when the obscurity descended. That's how constructors contemplate, and that's how champions exist. When the day commences, communicate with power. Today I guide my mind, not I hope I experience improvement, not I'll pause and observe how it unfolds. No, you guide. You assume command. You establish the emotional temperature. If existence turns frigid, you generate warmth from within. If individuals go quiet, you communicate to yourself more forcefully. If the day feels burdensome, you transport it with stance and dignity. That's how you maintain drive. That's how you maintain authority. You don't get sidetracked by conflict. You don't withdraw because of postponement. You continue constructing. Even when nothing around you appears to be functioning, you continue constructing. Even when your physical form is fatigued and your essence is depleted, you continue constructing because you're not here to endure the day. You're here to dominate it. And not with arrogance, but with vitality, with practice, with appreciation. You're not here to be like everyone else. You're here to demonstrate what occurs when a human being selects happiness deliberately over and over again. Not because existence is simple, but because existence is brief, and you refuse to squander it, existing weakly. And when others observe you express warmth through conflict, they'll question what your formula is. But you'll understand there's no formula, just daily, severe, magnificent self-direction. Just refusing to let situations determine your essence, just selecting every single time to push yourself into the most powerful, elevated expression of you. Not because it's pleasant, but because it's correct. Because happiness is not discovered, it is constructed, and you are the constructor. You must command your emotional condition daily, never plead for it. You were not created to be at the mercy of your dispositions or imprisoned by the turbulence around you. You were constructed with authority, not to be governed by sensations, but to govern them. The instant you plead for tranquility, for precision, for inspiration, you've already positioned your power in the grasp of something else. And when your power belongs to something outside of you, it can be removed from you at any instant. That is not liberation. That is emotional captivity. And most individuals exist that way without even recognizing it. Their feelings determine their behaviors, their anxieties mold their expressions, and their sensations dictate their destiny. But not you. Not anymore. You don't get to declare, "I don't feel inclined." When your purpose is at stake, you don't get to contract when pressure materializes. Because pressure is not your adversary, it's your demonstration arena. You must ascend regardless of what you sense. You must condition yourself to guide from the forefront, even if your limbs are trembling. That is a genuine command. That is what divides the fragile from the immovable. When your feelings are operating wildly, it is your obligation to halt the turbulence. Inhale deeply and remind yourself, I am in authority here. Not my suffering, not my anxiety, not my uncertainty. Me, my determinations, my benchmarks, my reflections, my stance, my concentration. I select what exists in my mind, and I will not lease territory to weakness. Every morning when you awaken, there is a conflict occurring before your feet contact the floor. Your mind desires to slide into ease. Your sensations desire to direct you back to history. And your uncertainty desires to murmur that you aren't sufficient. But you are not a casualty of those reflections. You are the commander. You either assume command or get commanded. You either construct the day or the day demolishes you. So don't pause for inspiration to materialize. Don't request tranquility. Don't anticipate power. Command it. Position yourself in the reflection and declare it into reality. Not once, not for a few days, but every day until your internal reality obeys you. Your feelings must not be tyrants. They must be conditioned warriors. They receive instructions from your mind, not the opposite way. If your feelings are guiding, you will fracture when existence becomes burdensome. But if your consciousness is guiding, nothing can distort you. Individuals will examine you. Postponements will examine you. Deprivation will examine you. But you will remain balanced because your feelings do not make your determinations. You do. You don't need to be positive to behave correctly. You are required to behave correctly to feel positive. And that is the formula the typical person never discovers. He continues pausing. Pausing for a positive day. Pausing to feel motivated. Pausing for someone to elevate him. And while he pauses, his existence remains motionless. But the one who commands his feelings, he relocates mountains. You desire authority? Command your condition. You desire tranquility. Protect your mind. You desire happiness. Cultivate it in practice. Stop attributing blame to reality for how you sense. Stop granting individuals authorization to destroy your tranquility. Reclaim your jurisdiction. Remind yourself that regardless of what occurs today, you determine what it signifies. That authority is not delivered, it is seized. And if you seize it, genuinely seize it, no external tempest can disturb you. You will curve, but you won't fracture. You will hemorrhage, but you won't surrender. Because every time existence attempts to pull you into weakness, you ascend with certainty and declare, I respond to something superior than how I sense. I respond to who I select to be. You must construct the practice of emotional power like a warrior refines his weapon. You must awaken each morning before reality can penetrate your mind and secure your trajectory. Your mindset is not automatic. It is installed. It is configured. It is conditioned. And conditioning signifies repetition. Repetition when it's monotonous. Repetition when it's agonizing. Repetition when you desire to depart. That's how champions are shaped. That's how minds become indestructible. And if you desire to ascend above your sensations, you must labor harder than your feelings do. There will be instants when nothing seems correct. When anxiety screams and uncertainty murmurs, that's when you communicate more forcefully. That's when you engage intensely. That's when you don't just endure, you command. Command your existence, command your reflections. Command your respiration, not in arrogance, but in precision. Because the instant you surrender your feelings to chance or outside acceptance, you diminish your essence. And diminished essences don't guide. They pursue, they disintegrate. But you are here to guide your existence. You are here to become the type of individual who advances into flames with a composed mind and a powerful core. The tempests of existence will continue arriving. You can't halt the current, but you can command your navigation. And that navigation is your condition. Command it. Don't just react to existence. React with intention, react with concentration, react with intensity, because you didn't arrive this far to be emotionally unstable. You didn't withstand everything you've withstood just to be guided by temporary sensations. You arrived here to master yourself. And that commences the instant you stop pleading to sense improved and determine to guide yourself improved. Push past ease, ascend through opposition, and never again permit your feelings to withdraw you away from the person you were created to become. You are not here to anticipate, you are here to command. Adversity is existence's summons to expand. React with happiness, not grievance. Every conflict, every obstacle, every deprivation that disrupts your reality is not here to shatter you. It is here to construct you. It is not a malediction, but a summons to ascend, to transform, to refine the boundaries of your essence against the sharpening stone of hardship. Most individuals squander their suffering. They lament, they accuse, they withdraw, they inquire, why me, as if existence has isolated them out for anguish. But what they don't perceive is that adversity is not individual, it is intentional. It arrives for everyone, but only a select few will utilize it. Only a select few will perceive it as the forge that creates excellence. And you're examining this. You are one of those select few. You are not here to collapse. You are here to react with happiness. That happiness is not artificial. It is not coerced. It is not some hollow expression attached over a fractured core. It is a selection, an instrument. It is the determination to position yourself in the tempest with your head elevated and your intention intact. It is the denial to permit hardship, pull your vitality into shadows. You don't require to appreciate the suffering, but you must welcome the expansion. You must encounter adversity with a consciousness so powerful that it astonishes the universe. While others disintegrate, you position yourself elevated. While others condemn the examination, you declare, excellent, now I ascend. Grievances are simple. Happiness is practice. Anyone can protest. Anyone can indicate blame, clarify why existence is unjust, why circumstances should be simpler. But those who accomplish genuine metamorphosis don't possess opportunity for sympathy. They don't possess capacity in their minds for weakness. They utilize every impact as the ignition. They convert suffering into concentration. They convert deprivation into propulsion. They convert postponements into deeper determination. And that metamorphosis doesn't occur by chance. It occurs through daily determinations. The determination to react with happiness is not gentle. It is not innocent. It is one of the most demanding selections you will ever execute, but it is also the most formidable. Adversity will remove away the exterior. It will expose what you're genuinely composed of. It will demonstrate you the reality, not of the universe, but of yourself. And what you discover in that reflection is determined by you. Will you discover an individual crushed by situations? Or will you discover a champion ascending from the debris, vision precise, hands compressed, core unshaken? Because that's what you are. If you select to be, every obstacle is questioning you one inquiry: how powerful are you prepared to become? And every time you respond with happiness, with behavior, with practice, you become someone that hardship cannot vanquish. There's a type of individual adversity cannot manage. An individual who doesn't retreat, who doesn't hesitate, who doesn't protest, groan, or pause for someone else to repair it. An individual who encounters the flames and advances through it. That individual exists inside of you, but it will only surface if you halt utilizing your voice to lament and commence utilizing it to command. Command your vitality, command your reflections, command your reaction. You may not command the suffering, but you always command the viewpoint. Commence perceiving adversity as your conditioning arena, your chance to refine mental capabilities. The more burdensome the mass, the more powerful you become. The more profound the cavity, the more magnificent the ascension. Every difficult day is molding your future conquests. Every postponement is instructing you endurance. Every deprivation is constructing modesty. Every deception is sculpting understanding. These are not just injuries. They are instruments in concealment. The universe will never halt examining you, but that's not a difficulty. That's the objective. Existence will continue presenting you tempests until you discover how to become the composure inside them. You must halt perceiving difficulties as disruptions. They are the root. The barrier is not in the path. It is the path, but only if you perceive it that manner. Only if you halt opposing what existence is instructing and commence engaging into it. This is not about remaining optimistic for the purpose of presentations. It's about cultivating a mind so formidable that you react with intention to anything existence presents at you. That type of power is uncommon. That type of consciousness doesn't lament. It commands. It generates. It assembles the destiny brick by indestructible brick. You are being shaped for something more magnificent, and shaping always arrives with force, but force is the advantage. Precious stones are not manufactured in ease. Pioneers are not manufactured in comfort. Intention is not created in recognition. It is created in adversity. You are being arranged. And the suffering you experience is not an indication to halt. It's a notification to construct. So react with happiness. Not because the procedure is agreeable, but because the outcome is valuable. React with happiness, because that's how champions react. That's how champions ascend. That's how narratives are manufactured. When adversity materializes again, and it will express warmth at it, not because you appreciate the conflict, but because you appreciate who you become through it. That expression of warmth is not weakness. It is your power exposed. It is your quiet proclamation that nothing outside you can ever vanquish what exists inside you. This is your opportunity. This is your instant. You've lamented long sufficiently. You've interrogated long sufficiently. Now react, and not with anxiety, not with withdrawal. React with authority. React with precision. React with happiness. Because adversity is not here to terminate you. It is here to elevate you. Practice generates happiness, particularly when it's most demanding. When the universe feels like it's disintegrating, when you possess every justification to abandon, when the rationalizations sound more forceful than your objectives, that is when practice becomes the entrance to tranquility. Not inspiration, not stimulus, not fortune. Practice. because practice doesn't depend on sensations. It doesn't concern itself whether you're fatigued, fractured, or unmotivated. It advances regardless, and that advancement constructs drive. That drive constructs assurance. And assurance grounded in persistent behavior constructs happiness that isn't disrupted by situation. In the center of turbulence, practice grants you command. In the tempest, practice is your stabilizer. When your feelings scream to respond, to conceal, to capitulate, practice instructs you to ascend. It instructs you to advance. It instructs you to continue appearing, particularly when you don't sense inclined. Most individuals fracture under force, not because they absence talent, but because they absence self-authority. They pause to sense positive, to behave correctly. But the ones who triumph, the ones who exist in happiness, don't pause. They determine. They behave on foundation. They construct frameworks that operate even when their core feels burdensome, and that's where happiness commences, not in ease, but in consistency. You don't become powerful by executing what's simple. You don't become content by evading discomfort. You become both by confronting the demanding with immovable dedication. Practice is selecting what's correct over what's simple. It's declaring no when the universe declares indulge. It's maintaining the boundary when the mind screams to abandon. Every time you remain concentrated, remain honest, remain driven, you sculpt a deeper sense of regard for yourself, and that regard cultivates self-confidence. That self-confidence cultivates happiness, not the type that diminishes when situations transform, but the type that remains with you in quietness, in shadows, in hardship. Happiness constructed on outcomes is delicate. Happiness constructed on practice is impenetrable. Because outcomes can disappear, individuals can disillusion you, the universe can disintegrate. But your patterns, your schedule, your internal framework that remains, and it transports you through. When others are absorbed by uncertainty, you're occupied executing. When others alarm, you advance with intention because you've conditioned for this. You've prepared your mind to obey foundation, not impulse. You don't depend on inspiration. You depend on muscle recollection. And that's what practice is. It is the emotional muscle recollection of excellence. Practice is executing the training when no one observes. It's examining while others navigate. It's selecting water over comfort, nourishment. It's commanding your speech when fury ascends. It's awakening with deliberateness, not by chance. These minor behaviors don't always seem compensating in the instant, but over duration, they construct a bedrock so powerful that nothing can disturb it. You commence to experience tranquility because you're no longer deceiving yourself. You commence to experience happiness because you're no longer out of synchronization. That's genuine happiness secured, not delivered. When existence strikes you in the face, practice is what retrieves you back upward. It's the hand you offer to yourself. It declares, I recognize this wounds, but we advance regardless. That type of voice inside you is not created overnight. It is constructed through repetition, through daily selections, through declaring yes to expansion and no to weakness. Even when that weakness arrives disguised as rest, as ease, as harmless diversion, the most significant threat to your happiness isn't suffering. It's authorization to remain ordinary. The universe will instruct you to take it simple, to grant yourself a respite, to be gentler. But that gentleness, when it becomes a configuration, transforms into sorrow. Because nothing eliminates happiness faster than unrealized capacity. Nothing consumes you alive like recognizing you could have been more but selected less. Practice silences that remorse before it commences. It constructs you upward when no one else will. It instructs you to depend on your behaviors, not your situations for happiness. And that makes you unstoppable. You don't ascend when everything is flawless. You ascend because you determine that nothing will command your result. Not tension, not conflict, not defeat. Practice is your defiance against turbulence. It is your evidence to the universe that you will not be fractured. It is the declaration you manufacture every day when you execute the demanding thing simply because it's the correct thing. And when others observe, they'll believe you're talented, fortunate, blessed, but you'll recognize the reality: you are practiced. and that makes all the distinction. In the presence of anxiety, practice grants you framework. When feeling obscures your mind, practice penetrates through like an instrument. It grants you precision. It grants you schedule. It grants you a sense of steadiness when everything else is disintegrating. And that steadiness brings happiness because you are no longer responding to existence. You are guiding it. You are no longer commanded by the elevations and depths. You are stable, grounded, powerful because your patterns are solid, because your selections are synchronized, because your benchmarks are elevated. You don't have to appreciate practice to be metamorphosed by it. You just have to execute it day after day, selection after selection, until one day you comprehend that the same patterns that once seemed burdensome now seem like liberation. And that liberation becomes happiness. Not a temporary sensation, but a bedrock that maintains you upward through anything. You secured it, you constructed it, and no one can remove it from you. Practice generates happiness, particularly when it's most demanding, because that's when it signifies the most. No external force possesses authority over your internal selection. Nothing outside of you, no defeat, no dismissal, no condemnation, no deprivation can dictate how you contemplate, how you react, or who you become unless you permit it. The instant you surrender your mind to situation, you've surrendered away the only genuine authority you'll ever possess. And that authority is selection. Your capacity to select your concentration, your reflections, your convictions, your subsequent action, regardless of what's collapsing around you. That authority is sacred. It is not for purchase. It cannot be seized. It can only be surrendered. And too many individuals surrender it upward every single day without comprehending what they've forfeited. They permit opinion mold their value. They permit vanquishment establish their identity. They permit the disturbance of the universe drown out the voice of their own mind. And as a consequence, they advance through existence responding, not generating, existing as captives to circumstances instead of commanders of their fate. But the reality is this: no one possesses the authority to devastate your day unless you award them entry. No occurrence possesses the authority to devastate your existence unless you accept it can. No difficulty possesses the authority to fracture you unless you consent to remain fractured. The conflict is never out there. It is always in here, in the reflections you acknowledge, in the significance you allocate, in the narrative you communicate yourself about what just occurred. Your internal universe constructs your external universe. Your internal narrative commands your external outcomes. And when you select to master what occurs inside, there is nothing outside that can disturb you. Suffering will still arrive. Force will still ascend, but you won't be relocated by it because your foundations go more profound than the exterior. Your principles run more profound than feelings. Your foundations position more powerful than alarm. That's what genuine authority is. Not the capacity to command the universe, but the denial to permit the universe command you. Individuals will attempt to examine your tranquility. Circumstances will endeavor to seize your precision. But in every instant, you maintain the jurisdiction. You are not your sensations. You are not your errors. You are not your surroundings. You are the witness of all of that. You are the one who receives to determine what to magnify, what to remove, and what to manifest. That determination is yours every single day, and it must be manufactured consciously. If you don't select your condition, your surroundings will select it for you. If you don't establish your consciousness, your disposition will establish it for you. If you don't guide yourself from within, you will be pulled by forces you'll never command. No tempest possesses the entitlement to seize your composure. No obstacle possesses the entitlement to recompose your identity. No turbulence possesses the entitlement to override your character unless you present it over. And that presentation occurs in instants of uncertainty when you disregard who you are and commence responding instead of reacting. But those instants are where metamorphosis commences. Because once you become conscious that the selection is always yours, you reclaim everything. You reclaim your duration, your concentration, your power. You halt pleading the universe to be equitable and commence becoming someone who doesn't require fairness to prosper. Command doesn't signify everything precedes your direction. It signifies nothing can command your manner of contemplating. It signifies securing your essence so profoundly in practice, precision, and reality that even when the currents scream and the force increases, your trajectory never transforms. It signifies advancing through deception with your head elevated. It signifies transporting intention even when the recognition diminishes. It signifies declaring power into your essence when your situations scream weakness. It's not simple, but it's liberation. The type of liberation no one can grant you and no one can remove from you. When you commence existing like this, everything transforms. Your surroundings doesn't require to be flawless because you are becoming formidable. Your connections halt, establishing your happiness because you establish your worth. Your aspirations halt, being dependent on outside confirmation because you have determined to trust your own voice above all others. That internal transformation is everything. That's when your existence commences synchronizing with ambition instead of feeling. That's when your duration commences, being molded by deliberateness instead of response. That's when your route becomes untouchable, not because it's smooth, but because you won't be relocated. Never again declare they manufactured me furious. Never again declare it devastated my day. Nothing and no one possesses that type of authority unless you surrender it away. Commence declaring the reality to yourself. I determine what I contemplate. I determine how I sense. I determine who I am. Regardless of what occurs, that consciousness doesn't just generate success, it generates tranquility. It generates happiness. It generates an existence that is guided from within and constructed to endure. Because when your selections are grounded in foundations, not feelings, your bedrock becomes immovable. So the subsequent time existence examines you, remember this isn't occurring to you. It's occurring for you to remind you of your authority, to summon you back into guidance of your own mind, to awaken you from the illusion that your happiness is in anyone else's grasp. It's not. It never was. It never will be. No external force possesses authority over your internal selection, and that reality, once fully possessed, makes you unstoppable. Every morning you either ascend with deliberateness or descend into rationalizations. There is no neutral territory. The instant your vision opens, you're either advancing into your day with intention or capitulating to the same narratives that have maintained you trapped. Your initial reflections establish the entire atmosphere of your day. That voice inside, whether powerful or fragile, establishes the trajectory. If you commence with uncertainty, you'll discover yourself pursuing the hours, apologizing to duration, responding to everything instead of guiding anything. But if you commence with precision, if you commence with certainty, if you commence by selecting practice over ease, you become unstoppable before the universe even receives a chance to withdraw you downward. Rationalizations are not harmless. They are criminals. They seize, drive, chance, and respect, and they materialize dressed as ease, reasoning, and justification. They instruct you to remain in bed a little longer, to postpone things off until tomorrow, to pause until you sense prepared. But there is no such thing as prepared. There is only prepared. Prepared to advance before you're comfortable, prepared to guide yourself before you're confident. Prepared to pursue your intention, even when uncertainty screams more forcefully than bravery. The morning is your demonstration arena. That initial hour establishes whether you're in command or being commanded. If you don't capture it, it will capture you. The individuals who ascend with deliberateness are not different in their obstacles. They still experience fatigue. They still experience anxiety, but they select to behave regardless. They command their surroundings before it commands them. They don't examine their devices first. They examine their minds. They don't pause to be motivated. They produce their flame. They establish their benchmarks before the day establishes its snares because they comprehend one reality. If you don't establish the atmosphere for your day, the universe will establish it for you, and the universe doesn't concern itself about your capacity. Ascending with deliberateness signifies proclaiming who you are and what you represent before anything else possesses a voice. It signifies advancing ahead of your feelings, ahead of your uncertainties, ahead of the diversions that are anticipating to withdraw you off trajectory. It signifies possessing your duration before someone else possesses it for you. It is not about flawlessness. It is about authority. The authority to guide your vitality, your concentration, your patterns. That authority doesn't arrive later in the day. It is created in those initial few determinations, the ones no one perceives, but everyone will sense in your outcomes. If you commence your morning pulling yourself out of bed, examining notifications, nourishing on the disturbance of the universe, don't be astonished when your day seems turbulent, burdensome, and unfocused. You present it over your trajectory to things that don't serve you. But when you commence with respiration, with quietness, with intention, with movement, with ambition, you become untouchable because you've already secured yourself in something more profound than diversion. And from that position, everything transforms. Your mind is more precise. Your expressions are more refined. Your selections are more courageous. You don't require the universe to be composed when you are composed inside. You don't require the route to be simple when you have already selected to be powerful. Rationalizations are not just about what you don't execute. They are about what you permit to become your identity. Every time you permit one pass, you instruct your mind it's acceptable to be less than what you're capable of. You construct a pattern of concealing, and soon it becomes who you are. That's how individuals forfeit years, one rationalization at a time. But when you ascend with deliberateness, you reclaim it all. You observe in the reflection and declare, this is who I am, this is what I'm constructing, this is where I'm proceeding, and nothing will divert me from that. You don't have to sense inclined, or you don't have to possess flawless conditions. You just have to determine, and that determination must be manufactured every single morning. No one else will manufacture it for you. No one else will compel you to expand. No one else will halt you from remaining ordinary. It's on you. And that's a blessing, because once you acknowledge that reality, no one can restrain you back. Not your history, not your situations, not even in your own anxiety. Because anxiety forfeits its authority when you materialize regardless. Uncertainty dissolves when behavior assumes control. Rationalizations disappear when identity guides. The most powerful individuals are not the ones who possess the simplest mornings. They are the ones who manufactured the most demanding selections consistently. The ones who establish their alarms not just to awaken but to ascend upward. The ones who arrange their minds like athletes arrange their physical forms. The ones who denied to permit an inactive sensation become an inactive existence. Their power was constructed in the quietness of early hours when no one was observing and every part of them desired to press postpone. That's where champions are manufactured. Not in the illumination, but in the shadows of practiced mornings. So inquire yourself, what are you ascending for? What is the purpose that withdraws you out of bed? What is the benchmark you refuse to descend? What is the heritage you're constructing one morning at a time? Because whether you comprehend it or not, your existence is being molded by your mornings. They are either constructing the destiny you crave or concealing it beneath rationalizations. And the selection is always yours. Every single day, without exception, the timepiece resets. And when it does, you either ascend with deliberateness or you descend into rationalizations. Your reflections generate your emotional environment. Master them. The instant you permit a reflection to enter unchecked, you summon it to construct your existence. Every feeling you experience, every response you deliver, every determination you manufacture is molded by the reflections you accommodate. Reflections are not harmless. They are foundations. And those foundations develop into convictions, into dispositions, into identity. If your mind is saturated with anxiety, your universe will seem hazardous. If your mind is saturated with uncertainty, your existence will seem trapped. But if your mind is concentrated, deliberate, and precise, you will discover power in positions others disintegrate. You cannot afford to handle reflections casually. One negative configuration repeated often sufficiently becomes your reality. One uncertainty accommodated long sufficiently becomes your restriction. Your emotional condition is not a puzzle, it is a reflection. It reveals what you've been contemplating, what you've been nourishing your mind, what you've permitted to take foundation. And most individuals don't comprehend they're operating on automatic pilot. They awaken anxious not because of existence, but because their reflections are undisciplined. They respond with fury not because of others, but because their internal conversation is hostile. They experience despair not because there's no route forward, but because their reflections continue instructing them they're not sufficient. You are not what you sense. You are what you contemplate repeatedly. And if you desire to sense different, you must contemplate different. You must assume command of your internal universe like a commander guides his military. No feeling without justification, no reflection without examination, no mental configuration without intention. Your mind is a combat zone, and your reflections are your warriors. If you don't deliver them instructions, they will operate wildly. And wild reflections never guide to tranquility. They guide to turbulence, bewilderment, emotional depletion. But mastered reflections generate precision, trajectory, and a condition of composed authority. That's not a blessing, that's a practice. You cannot permit every reflection become a resident in your mind. Some reflections are trespassers. Some are criminals. Some arrive from anxiety, from the history, from individuals who projected their restrictions onto you. And just because a reflection materializes doesn't signify it belongs. You must become the protector of your mind. Position at the entrance, vigilant and deliberate. Inquire every reflection. Who dispatched you? What do you desire from me? Do you serve my intention or do you diminish my concentration? If the reflection doesn't construct you, it possesses no entitlement to remain. Mastering your reflections doesn't signify you'll never possess dark ones. It signifies you don't accept them. You don't nourish them. You don't permit them navigate your day or contaminate your ambition. The most powerful individuals possess dark reflections too. They just don't permit them guide. They've conditioned themselves to redirect, to disrupt the configuration, to substitute the deception with reality. They don't just contemplate, they witness their contemplating. And that consciousness is where liberation commences. You can't transform what you're not conscious of. But once you perceive the configuration, once you identify the reflection, you diminish its grasp. And then you substitute it with something more powerful. Appreciation is an instrument. Ambition is an instrument. Reality is an instrument. And you must utilize these every single day to battle for the mind you desire. Don't anticipate tranquility if you're constantly rehearsing turbulence. Don't anticipate happiness if your internal communication is saturated with bitterness. Don't anticipate precision if your reflections are drenched in diversion. You have to construct the emotional environment you desire to exist in, one reflection at a time, one instant at a time. Repetition is the solution. Not once, not twice, daily, until the correct reflections become automatic, until your mind becomes a position you can trust. You will never ascend above the quality of your reflections. They are the ceiling or the wings of your capacity. And the universe will attempt to saturate your head with disturbance, with anxiety, with urgency, with deceptions. That's why you require a mental barrier, something that protects you from absorbing what doesn't belong to your purpose. You have to select what you permit in, because once it's in, it will develop. That's how it operates. Concentrate on suffering and suffering magnifies. Concentrate on intention and intention magnifies. Concentrate on expansion and expansion magnifies. It's not enchantment. It's mental synchronization. And once you secure into that, everything commences to transform. You don't require to sense amazing all the duration, but you do require to contemplate with precision all the duration. Sensations pursue reflections always. You commence contemplating about everything that's incorrect. Your sensations descend. You commence contemplating about everything that's achievable. Your vitality elevates. This is not about artificial optimism. It's about mental guidance. You are the guide of your mind, and guidance demands responsibility. You must be responsible for the atmosphere, the language, the concentration of your contemplating. You must handle your reflections like resources, not chances. Your emotional environment influences how you communicate, how you advance, how you handle others, how you encounter obstacles, how you process chance. And every piece of it commences with the quality of your reflections. If you desire to sense empowered, you must contemplate empowered. If you desire to sense optimistic, you must contemplate with ambition. If you desire to sense composed, you must contemplate with arrangement. This is the genuine labor, the quiet labor, the daily unglamorous internal conflict. But if you triumph it, everything else becomes simpler. It's not about removing every negative reflection. It's about generating an environment where they can't flourish, where your dominant configurations are so powerful, so deliberate, so precise that negativity cannot take foundation. You become immovable. Not because you never waver, but because your mind always returns to center, always returns to intention, always returns to reality. And that is the authority of a mastered mind. That is the source of emotional command. That is the formula most individuals disregard. Your reflections generate your emotional environment. Master them. No one is arriving to rescue you from anguish. It's your obligation to liberate yourself. If you're anticipating for someone to recognize your conflict, anticipating for an opportunity, anticipating for existence to become simpler, you're already capitulating your authority. Anguish doesn't dissolve on its own. It intensifies when disregarded. And the longer you anticipate for someone else to withdraw you out, the more profound the foundations of powerlessness develop. No one recognizes the complete burden you transport. No one perceives every sleepless night, every quiet scream, every instant you pretend you're acceptable. So halt anticipating a liberation. No one is more qualified to withdraw you out than you. The instant you assume possession of your emotional condition, you commence the ascent. Yes, it's demanding. Yes, it seems unjust. But the reality is, no one else can execute this for you. They can support, they can motivate, but they cannot penetrate inside your mind and transform how you contemplate. They cannot inject you with practice. They cannot compel you to battle. That determination is yours and yours alone. The individuals who metamorphose their existences are not the ones with the simplest routes. They're the ones who finally declared sufficient. I'm not remaining here. They comprehend that anguish may not be their responsibility, but restoration is their obligation. You don't require to be flawless. You don't require to possess all the solutions. You just require to commence. Commence assuming one honest behavior that relocates you out of your current condition. Ascend and relocate your physical form even when you're fatigued. Declare reality to your suffering, even when it trembles your voice. Eliminate the rationalizations that protect your ease territory. Deactivate the disturbance that nourishes your uncertainties. This is not about pretending existence is acceptable. It's about refusing to remain trapped. You possess the capacity to transform. But capacity signifies nothing without determination, and determination signifies nothing without behavior. This existence will examine you. It will remove away illusions. It will position you face to face with your most depleted instants. And in those instants, the inquiry is not who will assist me. It's will I assist myself? Will you be the individual who ascends even when fractured? Will you be the one who declares illumination into shadows even when you can't perceive the conclusion? You don't require outside authorization to commence restoration. You don't require anyone's confirmation to reconstruct your consciousness. You just require the bravery to encounter yourself without deceptions, the power to position in discomfort without abandoning, and the ambition to accept something improved is on the other side, even if no one else perceives it yet. No one perceives the conflict you battle within, but you do. You recognize the reflections that attempt to submerge you. You recognize the patterns that maintain you desensitized. You recognize the configurations that repeat until you scream, and because you perceive it, you possess the authority to transform it. Anguish is not just emotional. It becomes behavioral. It becomes a rotation. And rotations don't fracture with duration. They fracture with selection. Severe, honest, repeated selection. You have to be relentless with the expression of yourself that desires to remain fractured. That expression may possess a voice, but it doesn't receive a ballot. You're the one who determines who you become from this point forward. Anticipating is the gradual termination of capacity. Every day you postpone possessing your authority, you're reinforcing weakness. You are instructing yourself that liberation is external when it has always been internal. Halt navigating for solutions. Halt desensitizing yourself with diversions. Halt accepting the deception that you're not capable. You are not powerless. You are formidable. But authority must be seized. It's not presented to you. It's created through determinations no one perceives. Through internal labor no one celebrates. Through endurance no one comprehends. This is your liberation purpose. And the only individual equipped for it is the one in the reflection. Permit others exist in denial. Permit others submerge in rationalizations. You are not others. You are here because something in you recognizes that your existence isn't designed to be withstood. It's designed to be molded. And the instrument is your consciousness. The hammer is your practice. The design is your ambition. Anguish only possesses authority when you halt constructing. So construct, particularly when it's most demanding. Construct when you're fatigued. Construct when no one accepts you. Construct, when the voice in your head instructs you. It's meaningless because that's the voice that's deceived to you long sufficiently, and you owe it to yourself to halt listening. Self-liberation doesn't signify you never descend. It signifies you ascend every time. It signifies you condition yourself to react with behavior instead of evasion, with bravery instead of anxiety, with trajectory instead of uncertainty. Anguish desires you to remain inactive, but you were not constructed to be inactive. You were constructed to relocate, to guide, to ascend. You don't require a flawless plan. You require a relentless determination. You require a justification so powerful it silences every rationalization. And if you haven't discovered that justification yet, observe in the reflection your destiny self is pleading you not to abandon. There is no white horse arriving, no flawless instant materializing. There is only now, and what you select to execute with it. You can navigate, you can position, you can desire, or you can behave. You can assume possession of your vitality. You can restructure your reflections. You can assume one demanding stride today, then another tomorrow. And one day you'll observe back and comprehend you didn't just endure the anguish, you outgrew it. You converted it into drive. You converted your fracture into advancement. That is what occurs when you halt anticipating for someone else to rescue you. That is what occurs when you become your own liberation. Select appreciation even when it wounds, particularly when it wounds, because that's the very instant when your mind desires to fracture, when your feelings spiral into shadows, when your core tightens around suffering instead of intention. And that is precisely when appreciation becomes your most formidable instrument. Not the type of shallow appreciation that catalogs surface-level things to sense improved, but the type that penetrates through your rationalizations and reminds you you are still here, you are still capable, you are still respiring. And as long as you are respiring, you possess the authority to select how you react to existence. Appreciation is not a compensation for the comfortable. It is a practice for the champions. Anyone can be appreciative when everything's operating. But your genuine power is exposed when nothing makes sense, when everything wounds. And yet you still murmur, "Thank you. Thank you for the chance to battle. Thank you for the obstacle that's compelling me to expand. Thank you for the suffering that's demonstrating me where I'm still gentle, still fragile, still incomplete." This is not illusion. It's determination. The determination to halt anticipating for flawless conditions to value your existence. The determination to halt establishing your value by what's absent and commence perceiving what's achievable through conflict. You must condition yourself to perceive differently, to observe at the destruction and discover a justification to reconstruct, to encounter the turbulence and proclaim, "There is still something here for me," because if you don't, if you only permit yourself to be appreciative when it's simple, you'll exist in constant emotional obligation. Anticipating, desiring, accusing, pursuing sensations instead of generating power. Genuine appreciation doesn't just transform your concentration, it resets your entire nervous framework. It transforms your stance. It metamorphoses victimhood into conquest. It assists you override the narrative that declares this is the conclusion and compose a new one that declares this is where I commence again. You don't require more duration to be thankful. You require more reality. The reality is you've endured everything up to this point. The reality is you're more resilient than you contemplate. The reality is, even if the universe disregards you, you possess the authority to remember yourself. Appreciation reminds you of your value when existence attempts to conceal it. Appreciation demonstrates you the illumination when your mind demonstrates you shadows. Appreciation is not weakness. It is defiance against vanquishment. You can be fractured and appreciative at the same instant. You can weep and still declare thank you. That's what makes you immovable. Halt anticipating to sense prepared. Commence practicing it now in the suffering, in the depletion, in the quietness. No one else hears. Appreciation is a capability, and if you don't utilize it, it deteriorates. But if you do, if you compel yourself to perceive even the most minimal gain, the most insignificant conquest, the briefest ignition of expansion, you will become a different individual. An individual who doesn't just endure tempests, but discovers to move inside them. An individual who curves but doesn't fracture, who hemorrhages but never submits. Because appreciation, when selected under flames, becomes your protection, your instrument, and your rationality. You don't owe the universe happiness, but you owe yourself the practice to discover authority in the turbulence. And appreciation is authority. It is precision. It is vitality. You contemplate it's gentle, but it's iron. It maintains your mind from disintegrating when force increases. It maintains your essence from deteriorating in self-sympathy. It awakens you upward when you desire to withdraw down. And it grants you command over the only thing you ever genuinely possess, your mindset. You can't always command suffering. You can't always repair difficulties right away. But you can command your viewpoint. And the most formidable viewpoint is this: there is something in this instant to be appreciative for, and I will discover it. Suffering is a deceiver. It instructs you that nothing positive is remaining, that optimism is vanished, that this is the conclusion. Appreciation instructs the reality. It murmurs, observe closer, observe at the respiration in your lungs, observe at the battle still in your essence, observe at how far you've already arrived. You've conquered things that once seemed impossible. You've concealed expressions of yourself that no longer served you. You've positioned upward after being struck downward more times than you can count. Appreciation assists you perceive the complete picture, not just the injury, but the champion. Not just the deprivation, but the instruction. Not just the suffering, but the route through it. You don't practice appreciation because existence is always positive. You practice it because you are determined to get more powerful. You practice it because you refuse to permit situations dictate your internal universe. You practice it because regardless of how dark it becomes, you accept somewhere deep inside that you were manufactured for more than just enduring. You were manufactured to ascend and ascend again and ascend again. Appreciation is your stabilizer in that ascension. It maintains you grounded while the tempest rages. It maintains you centered when everything else rotates. Don't anticipate for someone to present you happiness. Don't anticipate for your surroundings to transform before you transform your condition. Appreciation is the mechanism. It converts suffering into viewpoint. It converts turbulence into precision. It converts injuries into understanding. You may not command what fractures around you, but you can absolutely command what constructs within you. So select appreciation, not once, not someday, every single time it wounds. Because when it wounds and you still select appreciation, you're not just enduring, you're dominating. So permit this be the day you halt negotiating with your suffering and commence commanding your authority. No more anticipating for tranquility to materialize, you bring it. No more searching for happiness, you produce it. No more optimizing for the correct instant. You proclaim this instant as the correct one. Appreciation is not a sensation you encounter into. It is a selection you create in the flames. And the more demanding existence becomes, the more forceful your appreciation must become, because that's how you triumph. Not once, not temporarily, but permanently. You become indestructible, not because existence becomes simpler, but because you get more refined, more precise, more powerful. While others react, you respond. While others descend, you ascend. So every day when it wounds most, when you sense least inclined, select appreciation, select power, select to push yourself forward with intention. That's how happiness is constructed, not discovered, not delivered.
That's all for today. If you found value in this message, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to this channel, and turning on notifications so you never miss our daily releases. Take action today. Your future self will thank you.